this tutorial will be covering the basic techniques you need when you start to make colour changes in corner to corner crochet. If you're new to this technique, I have got another video which I'll put in the link below, which will show you how to start off and make the increases and the decreases. But this video is going to focus on how you actually make neat colour changes. So I chose this design with the flag basically because you've got simple shapes of four across and four going down. So if you find it a little bit tricky following a graph, you can always look at your work and see quite clearly where you are. The first 4 rows, which you can see here looking diagonally, are just in one colour, which fits on just here within my original sample. And then it's when you get to row 5 and row 6 that you need to start introducing some colour techniques. So just a little tip, when we start, I like to put a stitch marker in the corner, the starting point, so that you can easily just check it against the starting point in your diagram to make sure that you're keeping your work working from the same angle. And also it's handy to put the stitch marker in the back of your work, because especially when you're new, the back might be slightly more untidy than the front. And so it just helps you keep a check in which is the front side of your work. So we'll move on and we'll make a start with round 5, which is going to be now introducing a block of white, which is here either side of our green stitches. So for now, I'm going to be working from this small chart here, which is basically just the bottom right hand corner, the area in red. So my first colour change is going to be at the end of one row and at the beginning of the next row, which is an increasing row. So I'm working my last block. So each block always consists of 3 chain followed by 3 trebles. But in this case, I've made my 3 chain and I've made 2 trebles. And then when it comes to making the 3rd treble in the chain space, I stop when I've got 2 stitches left on my hook. And it's at that point that I join in my new colour, and I leave enough yarn, enough sort of a couple of inches of yarn that I can join in afterwards. And I finish off my stitch with the new colour and pull that through, and that will give me the seamless colour change. I can then go on to making my increasing turn, which is making 6 chain, and then you miss the first 3 chain and you work 1 treble in each of the 4th, 5th and 6th chain leading back to your work. So that is my first treble, and this is my second treble, and that is my 3rd treble. So that's the first colour change that you will be using, and then you can just pull the yarn down a little snug to fasten it in. So that's our first type of colour change that is done. Now I'm going to move on to the next block here, but I'm going to be changing to using my greenish colour. So we know this is actually the back of the work that's facing me because it's got the stitch marker in it. So I'm going to leave my cream yarn just hanging down along my work here, and then I'm going to pick up the green yarn and I'm going to sort of lay it up and across, taking it to that chain space. Okay, and so I'm going to put my hook through, and then I'm going to make my slip stitch in that new colour. And then this is something that you'll just need to get a little bit used to. You need to pull it so it's snug but not tight that it puckers. You don't want this yarn sort of really pulling tightly, so you just make that slightly snug. So then we're ready to go. So we're going to make our 3 chain and our 3 treble. That's my second, and that's my third. Now when I just look at my work, I can see that when I'm working round 5, it's a cream, and then it's 3 of the greenish colour, and then I've got 1 cream at the end. So that's quite a big gap there. So that's quite a long way to try and take my cream yarn across. So I'm going to use a separate colour when I get to that end. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to make 2 more blocks in the blue colour so that I'm ready to make my change. So I'm now ready to add in my new colour. So I'm just going to put my hook through 3 chain space and make my slip stitch using the new colour to join them in. So that's that done. And then I'm going to make my 3 chain and my 3 trebles. So I'm at the end of my row and I'm going to make an increase row again. So I'm back to making my 6 chains. So let's check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to miss the first 3 and work my 1 treble into chain 4, 5 and 6. And that has brought me back again onto the 6th round of my work. So I can go across to my first chain space, make my slip stitch, make my 3 chain and my 3 treble. That's my second one. And then that's my third one. Now, just reading my work, I said to you that you will have 4 across, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 across going up, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know that I'm going to be linking into the next chain space and changing back to the greenish colour again. Now I know this is the front side of my work because my stitch marker is there laying across the back. So I'm going to make sure that my yarns are all at the back of my work to make sure they're out of the way. And then again, my greenish colour here, I'm going to take it across so that I can catch it in. Now, because it's the same colour as the row that I've just worked, it won't notice. It will get sort of buried into the work. So I've got my cream yarn at the back and I've got my greenish yarn going along the top here to that 3 chain space. I'm going to pop my hook in and just pull that through and make my slip stitch, and then again I can just give my cream a little tug and then I'm ready to go. So now I'm going to be working across two groups here, and then I'm going to have to pull back my cream yarn to join that in. So I'll now just go ahead and make those quickly. So it's 3 chain followed by 3 trebles, so my second treble and my third, and then I move on to my next 3 chain space, make my slip stitch, 3 chain and 3 treble. So now when I'm going to join this one, I want to change back to cream, But if you look on the back of my work, my cream yarn is here. So I need to pull my yarn back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cream yarn. It's probably easier if I lay this down actually and show you this way. So I'm going to take my cream yarn along the back of the work, and I'm just going to bring it back to meet the 3 chain space, if you can see here. So I've got my cream yarn, and so I'm going to then make my slip stitch and just catch that in. Okay, and again, it's a case of judging it. You don't want it so loose that it's really sloppy, but if you pull it too tight, it will pucker all your work. So you just need to sort of gauge it so it's sort of firmly in place. And then that cream thread that's there, that will all get crocheted in with as you make your 3 trebles. So I'm going to make my 3 chain, 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to make my 3 trebles, trebling over the chain and that thread. Now again, I'm just ready to go to make my final block in the cream. And I will make an increase at the end of this row and beginning of next, and I will work my way back to this last section here where I'm going to take my yarn across and show you how to do that. Now, if you have a smaller distance to travel, say here, I'm just going to have 1 block in the greenish colour, and I've got the same colour yarn this side as to the other side, I can actually take this yarn across with me. I'd only say do this over a small area, basically. I think it's neater to have a few more ends to sew in rather than taking yarns across too many times. But if it's a small area, you can do that. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take our greenish yarn. We know this is the back of the work, so although I'm taking it along the top, if it is going to lie either one side or the other, I do try and keep it sort of lying slightly on the same side as the stitch marker. So I'm going to take the greenish yarn back up. I'm also going to take this cream yarn with me and catch that in as well. So I'm going to put my hook through. I've got both yarns laying over the hook, but I'm going to use the greenish yarn to make my slip stitch and catching that cream yarn in the hook. It's just trapping it as I go along. And then I can finish making my slip stitch. And then the cream, I'm just going to let it lay across as I go along. So you can see the cream is now laying across with my 3 chain space. And I'm going to make my 3 chain. So 1, 2, 3. And in effect, I'm sort of encasing the cream thread in along with the 3 chain space. So I'm going to make my 3 chain, 1 and 2 and 3. And again, it's just this slight little tug. You can see it's a bit loose at the moment, so I'm going to pull it in a bit tighter, but I don't want it so tight that it's puckering it up. So you've just got a little bit of room for movement. At this point, I'd actually say I don't tend to sew in my ends until I've finished, because if you sew in your ends as you're going along, you're not giving yourself any room for manoeuvring a little bit of yarn around if you need to tighten up or have a bit more give. And if you have gone wrong and you need to pull back, then you've lost where your ends are. So when it comes to making my next block, I want to be making it using the cream yarn, and as you can see, the cream yarn is there, and I actually need the cream yarn here, so I need to be pulling the cream yarn back. So all I'm going to do is pull it back, and again, I don't want it too loose, but I don't want it too tight, and then I'm going to pop my hook through and catch the cream yarn through, pull that from the back to the front, and continue to make my slip stitch. And then again, I need to judge the length a bit, so I'm going to pull both ends of my yarn just gently so that I can gauge where I want the cream yarn to be, so that it's not too tight and not too loose. And again, I'm now going to make that cream block, and I'm going to be encasing my stitches across the chain space and that cream yarn. So I'm going to make 3 chain and then yarn over and through the whole lot. So I'm holding it all together, and that's my 3rd. And then I can carry it on to the end, making my 3 chain, 3 treble, and we can turn it around and have a look now. Just going to join it with a slip stitch to the next block, and I can just snip that yarn and take that through to the back, because that was my old yarn. It was from the end of this first corner. So when we look at it now, we can see that we've made 4 up, 4 across, and it's looking pretty good. So to recap, we've joined a new colour in at the end of one row and the beginning of the next. We've used an intarsia type method of joining in separate sections of yarn, and we've also carried yarn across, and we've also pulled yarn back to meet the previous colour. So I hope that's helped with the very beginnings of changing colour with corner to corner crochet. I will put the graph link in the notes below, and I really hope that that's helped. So take care for now. Thanks for watching, and see you soon. Bye.